Hey, welcome back. Now that you've learned about the aperture and f-stops, it's time to see how the size of the aperture affects the outcome of your image. The aperture can control exposure, true, because the size of the hole affects how much light enters the camera. And we'll talk more about how aperture works with light and shutter speed in Lesson 3. But the aperture also creates visual effects that can help solve composition problems. Let's look at these images here of a pot of flowers on my deck railing. See how the background is getting more sharp? This is because I'm changing the aperture. The hole is getting smaller. Do you remember from Lesson 1? The smaller the number, the larger the hole. And the larger the number, the smaller the hole. Let's now see what it means to your image. The first one here, the pink flowers, pop right off the blurry, soft background. But now look at the last one. The background is almost as in focus as the flowers. What's changed? The size of the aperture. In this photo, I used f4.5, a small number and a large hole. In this one, I used f22, a large number and a small hole. The larger the hole, the softer the background, and only one layer is in focus. The smaller the hole, more layers are in focus, and the background is almost as sharp as the flowers. Small hole equals more depth of field. Large hole equals a shallow depth of field. What is depth of field? Well, the definition is depth of field is the distance between the closest and furthest object in a photo that are in focus. There's a common misconception when it comes to depth of field. A lot of people will, while looking at an image with a blurry background, they'll look at it and they'll say, wow, look at all that depth of field. Actually, the blurry, softer background is what is called a shallow depth of field. A large depth of field is when you can see clearer into the background. Okay, let me give you a visual here. This might help. You're going to have to do this with me. You're going to take your hands out, okay? And you're going to close one eye. So let's close your right eye. And then with your left hand's going to be out here, your right eye is going to be closed, and then you're going to make a circle with your right hand. And then you're going to look through the circle. And let's start off with this big wide circle here. Big wide circle looking through. Now look at your hand. See how your hand is nice and focused, but nothing else is. Everything is blurry outside of your hand. Now, I want you to make a tiny circle, as tiny as you can, and see through it, okay? And then hold your hand out, and you're going to be surprised to see that not only is your hand in focus, but you can see everything in the background. I can see these lights, I can see the camera, you can see it all right there through that tiny hole. So refer back to that if you need to help understand the difference with the depth of field and the size of the hole in your aperture. Larger hole, shallow depth of field. Smaller hole, larger depth of field. Got it? Great. If you don't, it's okay. It's going to become clear in the next couple lessons. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about the relationship between the aperture and light and the shutter speed. Before moving on, take some time to check your camera settings. Locate where you can adjust shutter speed and if your camera has an aperture priority setting. On my camera, it is a capital A on a dial, but it might be an AV on yours or maybe something else, so check into it. Just make sure you know where it is on your camera and how you can turn it on and off. When you're ready, I'll see you in the next lesson.